Yes, thanks for the introduction, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to present NextMove today, and thanks for the invitation. I will focus my speech on smart mobility perspective. I will present the main trends in mobility, then the action of our cluster NextMove, and I will try to focus on smart mobility services through some of our projects and some examples of our members conducting projects in this domain. Today, we are living a major transformation in mobility. You all know that we have three main disruptions. The first one is a technological disruption, especially with electrification of the vehicles and the evolution of the energy mix. We also have a digital disruption, and I think that's the focus of your conference today. The digital disruption in mobility concern the connected vehicle and also the autonomous vehicle and smarter vehicle. But we also have a third disruption, which is a societal disruption with new behaviors, new mobility demands, and the new mobility service that we can see in the market. So just a word regarding this transformation, and I want to quote Jean-Dominique Senard, which is chairman of the board of directors of the Renault Group, and he said, the ecological transition, the development of electric and autonomous vehicles, and the intensification of international competition, the automotive industry is facing an historic transformation. And this transformation today is accelerating. We have a huge acceleration of these three disruptions, especially with the context today of the COVID-19. So we used to say that the next 10 years in the mobility industry will be more challenging than it has been in the last 15 years. So the 10 years we have to face today will be very disruptive and will be very challenging for our ecosystem. Why? Because tomorrow will be mobile. We still need mobility, and today, especially where we have all to stay at home due to sanitary condition, we all know the value of mobility. We all need mobility for freedom, but of course to go to work, to have social contacts, and to have activities. Tomorrow will be mobile, but we'll have to take into account the urban growth, the environmental and public health challenges and the environmental impact, the population aging, the change of behaviors of the citizens, and of course, the digital revolution. The mobility of tomorrow will be mobile, but will be cleaner and sustainable, will be safer, autonomous and connected, and will be inclusive and shared. That's the keywords that you have to take into account when you talk about mobility. So you can see the main descriptions in these keywords. And to face this revolution, we have to work together. And mobility revolution is a collaborative challenge. We have to face many technical, scientific, social issues. And to tackle with these issues, we need to work together and to use all the skills found in our different ecosystems. And that's the reason why NextMove exists and the clusters exist. Just a few words about NextMove. NextMove is a European automotive and mobility clusters. We are located in France, in Paris region and in Normandy, where we gather a unique network of car makers, but also suppliers, SME, startup, public institution, research and higher education institution, and local authorities. We represent more than 600 members in this ecosystem, and we call this ecosystem the Mobility Valley because we are located in the Seine Valley, and we gather all the value chain in this valley in order to invent, develop, test, but also industrialize the solution for the mobility of tomorrow. That's the reason why we have this cluster in France, and we gather all these actors, these players, to tackle those challenges of the mobility, but also to generate growth activities in our territories with new business models and new solutions, new activities for members. We have 4 main topics that we animated within NextMove. The first topic is the low environmental footprint mobility. The second one is a safe, connected, and autonomous mobility. The third one is new services and mobility solution. And the fourth one is industrial and operational excellence. Those 4 topics are for an innovative and responsible mobility. These are the topics where we want to put together our members in order to invent and innovate in the new solution. So after this general presentation of the main challenges regarding mobility and the focus of what we are doing within NextMove, I'm going to focus my speech on smart mobility solution, and especially on 3 main trends in smart mobility solution. The first main trend is the connectivity, and within the connectivity, the autonomous mobility. The third main trend is what we call soft mobility, but we call that also active mobility. I will explain why in a few minutes. And the third main trend is concern the transportation of goods, what we call urban logistics, and especially a very specific topic, which is the last mile delivery. So let me focus on the first trend, which is the connected and autonomous mobility. So what are the impact of autonomous mobility on the mobility of people and on the ecosystem? Today, we really need to have a more inclusive, more efficient, more user-friendly, and more sustainable mobility. That's what we are going to address with the autonomous mobility, especially when it will be electric and shared. That's very important when we talk about autonomous mobility. So this autonomous mobility will allow to connect peri-urban and urban zone, to be more flexible, and to have personalized and accessible service, what we call transport on demand. It will also help to extend the services in order to have public services of transportation during all the time of the day or in a rural area. And will also, we hope, help to improve safety and comfort for the passengers. So let me now explain 3 examples of projects that we support within NextMove in order to illustrate this autonomous mobility. The first project is in Rouen, where we have this experimentation of autonomous vehicles, which are Renault Zoe, to offer a public transportation system on demand on a specific area. So the users have an app, and they order a vehicle, which is an autonomous vehicle, and bring them from a point A to a point B. And it's a very, very interesting experimentation. Today, you still have a driver on the vehicle, but it's an experimentation that helps to see what can be the usages and the services that we can offer with these autonomous vehicles. The second project is called Tornado. It's a project in Paris region, in the city of Rambouillet, in order to commute people from rural area to the center of the city where you have the train station. So it's with small shuttles, but also with Zoe, where we conduct this project. And the third example, it's another company. It's a small company, a startup called ESFN Mila, which created this pod. And this pod is in experimentation today in Paris region, also in the city of Vélizy. It's a smaller vehicle, a smaller shuttle that the one we know with Transdev, with EasyMile or Navia, and it allows a higher speed of usage. So these three projects are experimentation today, but help us to understand the need of the passengers and to offer the best services. Now, let me focus on connectivity. Today, connectivity helps in mobility to offer better and smarter services. This connectivity is through the connectivity of vehicles. We talk about vehicle V2X, the cyber security, and also we are thinking about the possibility that we can offer in terms of services and of experience with the 5G. This connectivity helps also to offer smarter public transportation solution and to have this concept of mobility as a service with a seamless mobility system. And of course, we have the main issue when we talk about connectivity, about the data management, the management of the data of mobility. Now, let me illustrate with three other projects and startups that we support within NextMove. The first project is a very huge project in Paris-Saclay, so near Paris, which is a project 5G open road. The idea is to have a territory with 5G implemented and to have experimentation of vehicles using 5G for autonomous vehicles, but also for new services. The second example is Atsuke. It's a completely different example, but to offer smarter public transportation solution, Atsuke developed a system of ticketing through your smartphone. And it's very interesting. It's very simple. It's been simple for the users, simple for the transport network, and it's simple. It's smarter for the city also. It helped the city to have data on the transportation. So it has been developed, this project, in France, in Paris, Rouen, Toulouse, but also in Switzerland. So it's very smart, and this startup is in good development. And the third example is Betterway. It's also a startup, and Betterway developed a kind of credit card dedicated to mobility. And it's very interesting, especially in France, when the government launched a new law, which is the law for the LOM, which is the law of orientation of mobilities, that help the different employers to cover the cost of mobility of their employees. And thanks to this card, it will allow the different employees to use different modes of transportation. So you can see that thanks to connectivity, we can also have this kind of seamless mobility and to offer a credit card that allow you to pay all kind of transportation. So that's the example for the connectivity. Let's talk about now of soft and active mobility. Today we see the emergence of a lot of new modes of transportation and mobility services, especially what we call the micro-mobility, with two-wheelers and especially electric two-wheelers, but also bike and e-bikes and e-scooters. And we see that in the cities, this micro-mobility is emerging and growing, but we have to tackle also with the issue of the place of this mobility in the cities. When we talk about smart mobility, we can't think that it will not be shared. So shared mobility is really a key word. And when we talk about shared mobility, we talk about also the merge, the passage from the ownership to the usage when we use mobility services. And when we talk about soft and active mobility, we think about also electromobility, because all these micro-mobility tools will be electric, and we have to think about also how to connect those electric mobility solution to the grid. Let me explain now three examples. The first one is CityScoot. It's also a startup that we support since the creation within NextMove. And this startup developed a concept of shared electric two-wheelers. They are developing their services through Europe. It has been developed in Paris and in Nice first, but today it's also developed in Milano and Barcelona. And this is very interesting because when we talk about shared mobility, this example is very unique and very successful. We have another member, which is Zoov, which developed a very smart concept of shared e-bikes, and you can see that they can pack the bikes in a short range to have an impact on the city, not so huge. And it's interesting, this concept, and they are developing this solution in Paris region, also in Saclay. And the third example, always talking about connectivity, we have a member developing an app to predict the electric consumption of your vehicle. Of course, of the car, but not only a car, of your e-bike or your e-scooter. Very interesting, but because it takes into account the different environment issues and parameters in order to predict your consumption of a vehicle. So now let me explain the third trend, which is urban logistics and last mile delivery. Today, when we talk about mobility, we are used to talk about transportation of people, but transportation of goods is also a main issue, especially in urban logistics, because they have to face many challenges, and they have to implement a lot of innovation in order to change their way of doing logistics. When we talk about logistics, we have to take into account that they have to answer very strong restrictions and requirements. They have to take into account, of course, the management and consumption of resources, but they have also to take into account the social, environmental, and societal expectation when we talk about logistics. Let me give you an example about last mile delivery. Today, last mile delivery represents 20% of the cost of the logistics of a good. And according to the city of Paris, today, 20% of the vehicle into the cities of Paris are dedicated to deliver packages, and it represents more than 25% of the emission of CO2 and the pollution. So it's a huge impact, 25%. And the last mile delivery is also responsible of urban congestion, with 80% of deliveries vehicles parked illegally in the city. So you can see that there are huge challenges, and let me give you two examples of NextMove members that are developing solutions. The first one is Carriol. It's an innovative urban delivery system. It's an electric trailer for last mile delivery that can hold to 250 kilograms and have an autonomy of 70 kilometers in electric, because it's an electric trailer. It's very interesting, and some of the main delivery companies in Paris are regarding this solution. And the second example is Trinsrail. It's a very innovative solution. It's a kind of droid, an autonomous droid for logistics, for the last mile delivery. And this droid follow you, and you can park in the goods that you have to deliver in different areas. So that's some of the examples that I can give you on projects that we support. So to conclude my speech, I hope that I have not been too long. As I said today, we are living a major transformation of mobility, but mobility is not the only sector impacted by this transformation, but the transformation will be very important with the mobility ecosystem. And this transformation is accelerating today in the context of COVID. What I want to say also is that smart mobility will depend on many complementary skills, and we need to work together in a collaborative way in order to tackle, to answer those main challenges. We will need skills coming from all the activities and all the industries that the automotive and mobility industry and sectors. That's why smart mobility needs other smart initiatives. Smart mobility will need to cooperate with smart cities, smart infrastructure, smart grids, smart data in order to answer those solutions. And as I told you, and that's why NextMove exists, collaboration is the answer. Collaboration is the driver to answer those challenges. Thanks for your attention.